You wake before the alarm not from rest, but from habit. The first thing you touch is the screen. Headlines, messages, noise. You tell yourself you're awake, aware, participating in life. Yet beneath that motion lies a still sleep, a performance of consciousness. We are the most self-aware generation in history, and the most absent from ourselves. We analyze our wounds, name our patterns, even meditate on command. But all this knowledge sits unused like books we never open. True awareness is not information. It is presence, the quiet recognition that most of what we call life is a dream we haven't yet chosen to wake from. 1. The beautiful lie of awareness. There is a quiet delusion that defines our time, the belief that naming our demons means we have defeated them. You tell yourself you understand. You know you're a people pleaser. You've traced your fear of conflict back to childhood. You've read the books, listened to the podcasts, maybe even sat across from a therapist. You can explain your behavior with remarkable precision, and yet tomorrow morning, you will still say yes to what you don't want. Still check your ex's page, still feel that familiar tension in your chest when your boss sends a vague message. This is the beautiful lie, believing that understanding yourself is the same as being present with yourself. An entire culture thrives on this confusion. Self-improvement has become our secular religion. Optimization disguised as enlightenment. We track our habits, quantify our sleep, and refine our routines. But in doing so, we confuse the map with the territory, the menu with the meal. As Daniel Kahneman revealed, nearly 95% of our daily actions are guided by automatic, unconscious systems, ancient mechanisms that keep us alive but seldom awake. We live like polished machines running code written long ago, mistaking repetition for choice. Imagine this, it's 9 p.m. You're exhausted. You tell yourself you need a break, so you open Instagram for 5 minutes. 40 minutes later, you're watching a stranger's wedding in Positano, feeling a quiet ache you can't explain. Your heart rate rises, your jaw tightens. You feel more anxious than before. And still, as you scroll, a voice whispers inside, "I shouldn't be doing this. I'm so bad at self-control. Tomorrow I'll do better." You think this commentary is awareness. It isn't. It's the ego performing consciousness, narrating the dream instead of waking from it. We journal our patterns while repeating them. We meditate to become calm, turning stillness into another goal to chase. We practice self-care while avoiding the self. Even our tools of awareness become new masks for the same sleep-refined, branded, and deeply familiar. The tragedy is not our unconsciousness, but our blindness to it. We mistake knowledge for transformation, description for experience, insight for awakening. We speak of tasting the apple without ever biting into it, and convince ourselves that language is enough. And perhaps the most painful truth is this: once you believe you are already awake, you stop seeking what could truly open your eyes. So what binds us to this dream? What makes the mind choose comfort over consciousness and call it growth? The architecture of autopilot. Your brain was never designed to keep you awake. It was designed to keep you alive, and the difference is profound. Every second, your nervous system receives around 11 million bits of information, while your conscious mind can handle barely 40. To survive, the brain filters, edits, and discards almost everything. It decides what deserves attention and what can fade into silence. This isn't a flaw, it's efficiency. If you had to consciously process every sound, every breath, every choice, awareness itself would crush you. So the brain learns to automate. It builds patterns, habits, reflexes, shortcuts that save energy. You can drive home while lost in thought, make coffee while planning your day, walk your familiar street in a fog, and still arrive safely. But this efficiency comes with a hidden cost. The same mechanism that protects you from overwhelm also numbs you to presence. I once knew a man, let's call him David, who walked the same tree-lined road to work for 3 years. When asked to describe the houses along his route, he couldn't recall a single one. Not the color, not the style, not even the shape of their windows. He had walked that street over 1,000 times, yet it had never truly existed for him. His body had traveled the path, his mind had been elsewhere. This is the quiet tragedy of autopilot, functional but absent, efficient but hollow. And over time we've learned to use this numbness as a form of self-defense. We fill our schedules, our minds, our lives with motion because stillness might force us to feel what we've long avoided. Busyness has become a socially acceptable escape from consciousness itself. Modern life magnifies this escape into an art form. We've surrounded ourselves with stimulation, notifications, updates, infinite scrolls, and algorithms that feed us novelty in tiny, precise doses. Each ping gives a flicker of reward, just enough to keep us reaching, never enough to let us rest. We've become creatures of the lever, pressing endlessly for the next hit of distraction. And here lies the cruel irony: we chase constant stimulation because reality in its quiet texture no longer feels enough. The depth of presence has been replaced by the noise of input. We mistake activity for aliveness. Look around. People at dinner with their phones face up, glancing between conversation and phantom vibrations. Couples walking together in silence, each lost in their own feed. Parents watching their children's first steps through a lens instead of their own eyes. We are there, but not there. Present in form, absent in soul. The brain isn't broken when it drifts into autopilot. It's conserving energy. But what it cannot protect you from is the slow erosion of your own existence. A life observed but never lived. And here is the hardest truth. This sleep is not an accident. It didn't simply happen to you. It was engineered by design. 3. The cultural trance. Your distraction is not a personal weakness. It is a system one meticulously designed to profit from your attention. Every app, every feed, every notification has been engineered by brilliant minds with a single objective: to keep you engaged, which is only another word for addicted. Attention has become the currency of modern civilization, and your awareness is the product being sold. You are not simply losing focus, it is being taken from you, moment by moment, for someone else's gain. But the manipulation runs deeper than screens. It's embedded in the very architecture of our culture. We live in a world that worships busyness as virtue. To be constantly occupied is to be valuable. To rest is to risk being seen as lazy, unambitious, unworthy of success. Exhaustion has become a status symbol, silence a suspicion. In this unspoken religion of productivity, stillness feels like sin. This is not coincidence. A restless society is the perfect machine for consumption. When you are always rushing, you never pause long enough to question the path you're on. You don't ask, "What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is this life even mine?" Instead, identity becomes a performance. You buy, wear, display, subscribe, all to prove existence through acquisition. The self turns into a brand. We no longer live our values, we market them. We decorate life instead of inhabiting it. Nowhere is this trance more visible than in the modern workplace. We've accepted constant partial attention as normal emails at midnight, messages during dinner. The unspoken expectation that we are always reachable. But always on means never truly here. We scatter ourselves across screens, giving fragments of attention to everything, wholeness to nothing. Beneath the noise lies a quiet terror, the fear of silence. Because silence forces confrontation. In stillness, we meet ourselves. We begin to sense the emptiness beneath the motion, the echo of a life lived unconsciously. So we run faster. We scroll while eating, listen while walking, refresh while waiting, unable to bear 30 seconds of our own presence. Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Yet we call our adjustment success. We polish dysfunction until it looks like achievement. We praise endurance inside systems that drain the soul and name it resilience. But it isn't resilience. It's surrender. And then, one day, something fractures. Sometimes quietly, a subtle dissonance that no longer fits the script. Sometimes violently, a loss, a failure, a moment of unerrable clarity. But once you see the trance, once you recognize the machinery of sleep that governs the world, something irreversible occurs. You cannot return to the comfort of unawareness. The world remains the same, fast, loud, demanding. But you don't. Awareness stops being theory. It becomes a quiet exile, the conscious exile. There is a quiet kind of loneliness that follows awakening. Not the solitude of being alone, but the solitude of seeing what others cannot. You stand in a room full of laughter that no longer feels real. You listen to conversations that once made sense, now strangely hollow. You scroll through curated happiness and feel like an observer from another world. Nothing around you has changed, yet everything within you has. The gap between who you are becoming and who you were trained to be begins to stretch, and belonging starts to ache. This is the conscious the in-between state, where you see through illusion but still remember the warmth it gave. Awareness does not only open your eyes, it sharpens every sense. The noise of screens, the falseness in a practiced tone, the emptiness beneath polite words, they all grow louder. You feel the tension behind another's smile, the need to be accepted, the grief that hides beneath your own motion. You begin to notice how much of life depends on not noticing, and that sensitivity, while sacred, is exhausting. Awakening promises freedom, but its first gift is isolation. The more awake you become, the less you fit. The routines that once held you now feel like walls. The language of old friendships begins to fade. You're not rejecting the world. You're simply outgrowing the version of yourself that could live comfortably inside it. Then comes the doubt, you start to wonder if you're too intense, too fragile, too much. The world in its numbness will tell you that you are. It does not welcome those who feel deeply or see too clearly. But hear this, you are not broken. You are simply awake enough to recognize what no longer resonates. The discomfort you feel is not dysfunction. It is transformation. Painful, yes. Disorienting, certainly. But not wrong. The conscious exile is not the end of the path. It is the crossing. You stand between two realities, one mechanical, one alive. You can still sense the trance that others live in, and even the remnants of it within yourself. You move through both worlds, belonging fully to neither. Too awake to return to sleep, too untrained to remain conscious without fatigue. This is the hardest part, not the awakening, but the endurance of awareness. To see without yet knowing how to live what you see. Because insight without integration does not set you free. It only makes your pain more precise. So the question becomes, how do you stay awake without burning out? How do you turn awareness into wisdom and perception into peace? How do you keep your eyes open in a world still dreaming, and learn to love it even as you walk through it? Awake. 5. The mirror of inner awareness. The first true discipline of awareness is also the hardest, learning to witness yourself without turning that act into self-punishment. Most of us were never taught to observe our inner world, only to judge it. So when we finally look within, we bring the critic along. We notice anxiety and instantly add another voice, I shouldn't feel this way. We catch ourselves scrolling and declare, I'm weak. I lack control. We feel jealousy and conclude I'm a terrible person. This is not awareness. It's inner warfare disguised as self-improvement. Real awareness begins with a gentler, more radical premise that you can notice what arises in you without making it mean something about who you are. This is metacognition, the ability to see thoughts as passing weather, not permanent climate, as transient signals, not definitions of self. Anxiety is not you. It's something moving through you. The urge to check your phone is not failure. It's a signal that attention is seeking comfort. This shift seems subtle, yet it transforms everything. Instead of, I am anxious, you realize anxiety is present. Instead of, I'm failing to stay mindful, you see, the mind has wandered again. The story loosens its grip. You become the witness rather than the character. Think of your awareness as a light one that usually shines outward, absorbed in the mind's endless narration. What this means, who's right, what might happen next. But when you turn that light inward, you begin to notice the sensations beneath the story, the tightening in your chest before the thought, I'm not enough. The warmth in your face before you imagine judgment. The twitch in your fingers before they reach for distraction. In those moments, presence becomes tangible. Someone sends you a message that irritates you. Normally, you would react instantly following the reflex. But if you pause just 3 quiet seconds and feel the impulse before obeying it, a small miracle happens. You sense the wave of reactivity, the urge to defend, to prove, to strike back. And in that simple noticing space appears. You're no longer controlled by the impulse. You are choosing within it. Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz, wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Even in the darkest conditions, that inner space cannot be taken from you." This is the essence of mindful awareness, not to silence the mind, but to see it clearly. You cannot stop thoughts or emotions from arising, but you can transform your relationship with them. You can slow the reflex, soften the judgment, and create enough distance to act from clarity rather than compulsion. And this is not about becoming detached or perfectly serene. It's about staying fully human, allowing every feeling to exist without turning it into evidence against yourself. Awareness is not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of understanding. The paradox is simple, yet profound. The more you see without judging, the more clearly you see. Observation sharpens into precision. Precision deepens into discernment, and discernment quietly reshapes how you move through life. Because once you learn to see yourself without distortion, you begin to see the world the same way, unfiltered, unarmed, and awake. 6. The muscle of presence. Here's what few people understand about awareness. It isn't a permanent state of enlightenment. It's a discipline, something you build, lose, and rebuild again every single day. We often treat presence as a personality trait, as if some people are naturally mindful and others simply aren't. But awareness functions more like a muscle. It weakens without use. It strengthens through repetition. And just as you wouldn't walk into a gym expecting to lift impossible weight on your first attempt, you cannot expect a mind conditioned by decades of distraction to suddenly stay still through force of will. You need a practice, not an elaborate ritual, not a rigid routine destined to fail, but small, consistent moments that replace unconscious habit with deliberate attention. Simple acts that seem insignificant until they begin to change the texture of your awareness. Before opening any app, take one ordinary breath. Don't dramatize it, just notice it. For 3 seconds, feel air move in and out of your body. In that space, you interrupt compulsion. You create choice. Before responding to a message, give yourself 2 quiet minutes. Not to polish your words, but to let reactivity subside. Most quick replies aren't about communication, they're about anxiety. The pause exposes that truth. And each night, write a single sentence. Today I noticed. Maybe the color of the sky, a moment of tension, or a small laugh that felt genuine. You're not tracking gratitude or productivity. You're simply gathering evidence that you were alive and aware even briefly within your own life. These are not obligations. They are experiments, gentle tests of attention. Experiment 1. When emotion arises, anger, fear, even joy, resist naming it. Don't analyze it, just feel it. Where does it live in your body? Is it warm, cold, tight, or restless? We label emotions so fast we rarely experience them. This slows that reflex. Experiment 2. Walk for 5 minutes without your phone. Not for exercise or purpose, just to walk. Notice the air, the rhythm of your steps, the quiet sounds you usually ignore. The mind will wander. That's not failure. The practice isn't staying present, it's returning to presence. Experiment 3. Speak one sentence slower than usual. Feel each word as it forms. Sense the silence between them. You'll realize how much of your speech is habit, an attempt to fill the space rather than inhabit it. Neuroscience affirms this truth. The brain's attention networks strengthen with deliberate use. Each time you notice wandering and return, you are literally reshaping the mind's architecture. You're training it to remain here, not scattered across 1,000 imagined places. But you will forget. Days will pass on autopilot. You'll scroll mindlessly, eat without tasting, react without awareness. And when you notice, the instinct will be to judge yourself. Don't. Forgetting is not failure, it's part of the rhythm. Awareness is not the art of never leaving the present, it's the art of returning. 1,000 times if needed. Each return is a repetition. Each repetition builds strength. Over time, something subtle begins to shift. Presence stops being a moment you visit and becomes the ground you live on. You start to see choices where there were none before, the choice to pause, to breathe, to observe instead of react. And once that choice awakens, it grows. What began as small conscious moments becomes something larger, a way of existing that is deliberate, grounded, and quietly free. The life fully awake. There is an unspoken rhythm to awakening. First you notice, then you choose, then you create. Noticing is the first crack in the surface, the moment you see the patterns, the habits, the quiet machinery of your own sleep. Choosing is where strength enters the realization that you have agency in spaces you once believed were automatic. But creating, that is where awareness turns into life itself. It stops being a practice and becomes the way you exist. That's when something subtle yet profound changes. Reaction becomes response. Reaction is instinct, unconscious, inherited, mechanical. Someone criticizes you and defense rises before you even breathe. Anxiety appears and your thumb reaches for distraction. Boredom visits and you consume without thought. The mind slides down its familiar grooves before awareness has a chance to intervene. Response, however, is different. Response means you felt the trigger, observed the impulse, and still chose with clarity. Not out of performance, not out of virtue, but because you were actually here. And presence reveals options that reaction never sees. As awareness deepens, it begins to color everything. It's not a burden, but an invitation. A call to live with precision. You start noticing what you consume, and not only in food. The books you read shape your perception. The shows you watch sculpt your emotional landscape. The voices you follow online whisper into your sense of possibility. You realize you've been feeding on distraction and calling it knowledge. So you begin to curate your inner world, not to appear pure, but to protect the atmosphere of your mind. You become more deliberate with speech. You notice how often words spill out without intention. Opinions repeated, borrowed thoughts, sentences spoken only to fill silence. You start asking quietly, do I mean this? Is it true? Is it necessary? Not every emotion needs an audience. Not every truth requires sound. Sometimes the highest intelligence is silence itself. This is what quiet rebellion looks like, choosing depth in a culture addicted to speed. Reading one book deeply instead of 10 in fragments. Having one conversation that matters instead of 10 that don't. Doing one thing fully instead of 3 things distractedly. The world will call it inefficiency. Let it. You are no longer chasing productivity, you are cultivating presence. And then something beautiful happens. Ordinary moments open like doors. Drinking water becomes a ceremony, feeling its coolness, sensing gratitude for the simple fact of thirst and the miracle of being able to quench it. Walking becomes meditation, the steady rhythm of your feet, the softness in your gaze, the world meeting you without demand. Saying someone's name, looking into their eyes becomes an act of reverence in a world that rarely pauses long enough to see. You are not trying to be spiritual. You are simply trying to be here. Because awareness is not escape from reality, it is intimacy with it. It's allowing life to touch you directly instead of watching it through the veil of thought. It's sitting with discomfort instead of numbing it. It's feeling joy without needing proof of it. It's being alone without needing distraction. It's meeting others without wearing a mask. And yes, this clarity will set you apart. Some conversations will still feel shallow. The speed of modern life will still feel harsh. The trance will still surround you. But you will no longer feel lost inside it, because you belong deeply, quietly to yourself. You trust the compass within. You can be still without emptiness. You can be present without needing life to be different. This is what it means to live fully awake. Not perfect, not transcendent, not untouchable. Just here. Entirely, unmistakably, mercifully here. And here finally is where everything begins. The return to the moment. Awareness is not a summit to be conquered. It's a way of moving through life. One conscious step, then another. Forgetting, remembering, and beginning again. It's less about arrival, more about returning over and over to the only place life truly happens now. So here is your quiet practice if you choose to take it. For one day this week, simply notice how often you move before you think. Not to correct yourself, not to improve, just to see. Notice the hand that reaches for your phone before you decide to. Notice the words that leave your mouth before your mind catches them. Watch the current of habit without resistance. Awareness grows not by control, but by observation. And each morning before the world reclaims your attention, pause before the messages, before the noise, before you remember who you're supposed to be. Whisper to yourself, I choose to be here. That single breath, that simple choice is where awakening truly begins. Not in distant transcendence, but in the quiet act of returning to this moment, this breath, this life. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who feels too awake for the world around them. Someone who needs to remember they are not alone in this exile. And if you wish to walk this path with others learning the same art to stay aware without burning out, you are welcome here. One breath, one moment, that's all awakening ever is.